We're on Shabbat, Parakaf Gimel, Mishnah Dalet, fourth Mishnah in the 23rd, penultimate chapter of Masechet Shabbat. We're continuing our discussion of what's called Machshichin al Hatchum. Machshich al Hatchum means to go out to the Tchum Shabbat. Right, this is your city. We're looking at it from above, a bird's eye view. Remember, we learned that the Tchum Shabbat was 2,000 amot outside of the city. Person is allowed to walk on Shabbat up to 2,000 amot to the edge of the city, but beyond that, he's not allowed to go beyond. If he wants to go beyond, he has to do what's called an Eruv Tchumin. This is a halacha that, I don't know, people are not aware of. They should be aware of. It's a halacha that brought down the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, so we're talking about the idea of machshichin al tchum. When can I go out to the outside of the tchum, to wait at the edge of the tchum because I have something pressing right after Shabbat? So in the last Mishnah, we read the comment of Abba Shaul. Abba Shaul made a rule. Kol shani zakai ba'amirato. If I can talk about it on Shabbat, rashayani lachshich alav. I'm allowed to be machshich, to go to the edge of the tchum. Machshich from the word choshech, from the word darkness, to the night. So so this is a commentary. This is going to be the continuation of Abba Shaul's comment. Machshichin al tchum. I'm allowed to go to the edge of the tchum at night, before night, to wait for nightfall. The pakach al iskei kala, to oversee issues of iskei kala. I'm doing a wedding. I've got stuff to do. That's a mitzvah. It's iskei mitzvah. The al iskei met, or if somebody died, God forbid, lahavi lo aron v'tachrichim, to bring him a coffin, tachrichim are burial shrouds. So I have to take care of this dvar mitzvah. Since I'm being osek dvar mitzvah, okay, I'm allowed to talk about it on Shabbat. The Bartanur, and remember that Abba Shaul said anything I could talk about on Shabbat. Kol said it's shani zakai ba'amirato. It's a dvar mitzvah. You know, if a person dies, we gotta talk about taking care of him, even though we can't do it right now. Therefore, I can be machshich al hatchum as well. I can't go bring them. You know, they're not allowed to violate Shabbat, but I'm allowed to prepare to do it. So therefore, he says I'm allowed to be machshich al hatchum as well. Goy shevi, new halacha. Goy shevi chalilin b'Shabbat. Chalilin were these like flutes that they would use. They would use them as part of their hesped. So the goy did something that was not permitted for the needs of the dead person. He's dead on Shabbat, the niftar, and you're not going to use it until after Shabbat. Then the Mishnah says, Lo yispod be'em Yisrael. Then a Jew is not allowed to do a hesped with him, ela im kein ba'u mimakom karov, unless you brought them mimakom karov, from a close place, i.e. from a place in the tchum. If you brought them in the tchum Shabbat, then that's a d'Rabbanan. The goy is not prohibited to do a d'Rabbanan. But if the goy brought it from outside the tchum Shabbat, that's called. Well, we talked about what neheneh mi melechet goy or akum, right? Oved kachavim umazalot. That's neheneh from a non-Jew. You're benefiting from the work of a non-Jew, and you're not allowed to do that. We've learned in previous Mishnah you're not allowed to do that on Shabbat. If a goy cooked for me on Shabbat, I can't eat the food. So here's the Mishnah says, I'm not allowed to use it. Ela im kein ba'u mimakom karov. Two interpretations of what that means. The Bartanura says, I'm not allowed to use them. Lo yispod behem Yisrael, kanas. It's a fine. Mishum de muchacha milta. It's obvious. Should be shvil Yisrael huv'u. And that's based on Rashi. The Kahati says, no, you're not allowed to use them. Okay, it's a kanas, and therefore you can't use them at all. You can't use those chalilim at all. Whereas he quotes the Rambam and the Ran and the Tosfot say, no. There's a principle called kadesh yasu. Kadesh yasu means how long would it take to do this malacha? How long would it take to do this malacha? You have to wait this amount of time, b'kadesh yasu, and then you can use it. So that's what the Mishnah says. The Rambam says, lo yispod be'am Yisrael, right now. You can't use them if you want. The funeral starts right after Shabbat. Except you have to wait, b'kadesh yasu. It would take an hour to bring. You have to wait an hour. It's like, if I want to eat at the Dunkin' Donuts that's owned by a non-Jew, and he knows that there's a rush for the Jews right after Shabbat, and he makes them donuts right before the end of Shabbat, that's not appropriate. You have to wait b'kadesh yasu, the amount of time it would take to make the donuts. Not so long. Anyway, says the Mishnah, asu lo aron v'chavru lo keber, but if the goy, the non-Jew, made it for himself an aron, he made for himself a coffin, v'chavru lo keber, for his own dead, for a non-Jewish person, he dug a grave, then you cover by Yisrael. Then a Jewish person can be buried because he didn't do it for you, he did it for himself. And that's not called neheneh mi melechet akum. Similar to, remember, we learned, if the non-Jew turns on a light on Shabbat, if he did it for you, you can't benefit. If he did it for himself, you can benefit. But v'im bishvil Yisrael, and if he did it for a Jew, lo yikaver bo olamit. Then, okay, that Jew, if he did it for a specific Jew, the Kahati says, lo yikaver bo olamit, that Jew can never be buried. He says, but the Kahati says, another Jew you can bury in Motzei Shabbat, again, fulfilling, if it's b'kadesh yasu. You can't do it right away, you have to wait b'kedei sheyasu. We'll stop here. As always, email me if you have comments or questions, and we'll dedicate our learning to the memory of my father, Arav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Have a good day.